Today, I am joined by my friend, intensive care doctor, advocate, and veteran wife, Rachel McGrath. In addition to watching her husband become a three-time Paralympic gold medalist, Rachel has been a fundamental support for Curtis for more than 10 years. Today, we learn more about those that stand beside our nation's veterans. Can you tell me a bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am married to Curtis McGrath, who is a veteran from Afghanistan. I am 33 years old. I live on the Gold Coast, sunny Gold Coast, and I work as an intensive care doctor.
What is it like to be the wife of a veteran and an elite athlete at that?
It's a really interesting combination. I grew up in an army family and my dad's a veteran, so being the wife of a veteran is something which I'm quite familiar with. Being the wife of an elite athlete is something completely new. Up until COVID, he was away a lot, doing lots of training, and it's quite an all-encompassing job, not too dissimilar from being in the services.
I was going to say it sounds quite similar.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities actually. So it's there's a lot of intertwining things which happen, like going away for big deployments. Kurt usually goes to Italy for about 3 months a year when COVID didn't happen to train, and it did feel a bit like a deployment as well.
Do you get nervous when Kurt races? And if so, how do you manage that?
I don't handle it very well, and I reflect on the fact that I have a relatively high stress job and I find that quite fine. But when it comes to Kurt racing, I just do not enjoy it at all. Usually I try and distract myself. I'll go for a walk beforehand. I will try and just keep it nice and mellow at home, not make it too big a deal, watch it with some friends. But yeah, I find it really difficult watching Kurt race, very, very difficult, much more stressful than anything else I do.
And I can imagine the high when he finishes racing and the relief.
Yeah, it is. And I thought I would feel more joyful and excited, but I have to admit I did just feel like so much relief because I knew how hard he's worked for it. We both had moments through the year where we're like, this may not actually happen. And even during the Olympics, we were aware that if there was a big outbreak in the village, the Tokyo Paralympics may not happen. So the relief was, yeah, definitely. I just kind of like held my head in my hands and was like, it's done. Yeah.
You're both incredibly high achievers in your own fields and in your own right. So how do you in particular, stay motivated?
Yeah, I think I've always been quite a type A person and quite driven. So there's probably a lot of it is quite intuitive. But funnily enough, other things in my life, like understanding how a mortgage works, I just really don't care about. And I really, really enjoy my job. So it makes a big difference when you're passionate about your work. And I feel like it's a privilege to go to work and I get so much from it. So it doesn't feel like hard work, if that makes sense. Yeah.
How much of your passion for your role, in particular being an ICU doctor, do you think came from the experience that you had in being there for Kurt in the aftermath?
Definitely have a bit more of an understanding of the process of being a family member, going through having a loved one in ICU, and also what it's like for the long-term recovery. We only see patients usually for a couple of days to a couple of weeks. Sometimes we have patients there for several months, but that's unusual. And to have an idea of the fact that we see them for a very short period of time in what's ultimately usually months of rehab and recovery. Yeah, it's definitely given me a lot more of an understanding, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I got to learn from that. And I was aware of it when Kurt was injured. I knew in the back of my head I was going to be a doctor. I didn't know what kind of doctor, but I did try and make mental notes to be like, use this opportunity to learn from it, because you can make something positive from a negative.
You've experienced many highs and many lows over the years with Kurt. How do you handle the lows?
I think with lows, it's really important to acknowledge that it's a low, that you're feeling sad or you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling really angry and annoyed. When Kurt got injured, I dealt with it kind of in a delayed over about a year or two, and then kind of longer term, actually. I think it probably took me a full 5 years to actually get my head around it. And I saw a counsellor on and off over those years, just to kind of talk it through with someone very neutral and to work it through in my head, his injuries and the change that it was going to have on both of our lives. But yeah, when I reflect back to even COVID, and I had all these expectations of Tokyo, and we were all going to go with all our friends. It was going to be this great party, and that got cancelled. And then obviously for my line of work, I was pretty stressed last year thinking about what's going to happen with this pandemic. It's just important to actually be like, it's okay to be really angry and afraid and scared, and all those feelings are normal, and don't feel bad about that and then compound it even further. And to be able to use those kind of languages to say, you know, I feel really sad today, I'm feeling really stressed, and then all of a sudden you can acknowledge it and start the process of kind of, you know, developing how you're going to deal with it.
Do you have a message for veterans' families?
Veteran families, it is a family, isn't it? And I think that's a very special thing that we have. It's important to remember that it is a family, and you can't choose your family, unlike your friends. Well, actually, it's a bit like that for the veteran community, because you don't choose to be in each other's family, but we're all there for each other. So just remember that there's a very big, strong family community out there for you. And one thing which I know that we've talked about in the past is really important is there's a bit of a stigma sometimes and a misconception that being in a veteran family or being the spouse of someone who was significantly injured in Afghanistan has negative connotations. And yes, there are some things which are negative from it. And there are moments where, you know, I have to, you know, deal with Kurt not being able to go to the beach and we live on the Gold Coast, for example. Not a great situation. But there's so many positives as well. And it's good to push the positive stories about being a veteran spouse and, you know, all the things that we've learned through going through those experiences with them. And, you know, the relationships and the family connections that we get now. So it's important to always remember there are lots of positives as well being a veteran spouse.